So as a devout Hindu, my day starts at sunrise. It's mentioned in the Shastras that we have to wake up at sunrise. And so as I wake up, I finish up with my regular toiletries, shower and whatnot. After that, I move on with puja. Before puja, I cannot eat or drink anything. And then after puja, I go on to have mansi puja, and go on with my daily activities for breakfast and whatnot. Then when it comes to midday, I do THAL before I eat my main course, my lunch, right? And after that, I also have to do mansi puja along with that. Right after I'm done with that, I do mansi puja 5 times a day. And at the very end is how I do Sandhya Arti after returning home from daily activities. I do Sandhya Arti, which is basically offering bhakti towards Bhagwan. And daily at night, I do CHESHTA. CHESHTA is, if you're going to sleep, I put my God to sleep as well. So that's my way of putting God to sleep. Puja in devotion basically translates to worshipping Bhagwan and offering your devotion to Bhagwan. And there are different types of pujas, and each pujas have different steps and procedures. Out of many, the 3 main ones are Mahapuja, Nitya Puja, and Murti Puja. And out of those 3, the most common is Nitya Puja. And Nitya Puja basically translates to daily puja. Nitya means daily, and puja means to worship Bhagwan. To break down Nitya Puja itself, is several steps that go on to very simple steps. First, you lay out the asana on the floor, the asana that Bhagwan will sit on, and the asana that you sit on. And then you gather your thoughts, you do a little mansi, you make sure you don't lose focus, and so you do meditation for a minute or so you don't lose your thoughts. Then you lay out Bhagwan's murti, and then you lay out the asana for Bhagwan, and then you do your tilak chanlo. Tilak chanlo is something that I have on my forehead, and it has very scientific meaning behind it and spiritual meaning as well. So it's made out of, the U is made out of sandalwood, and the red is made out of kumkum. And they both serve the same purpose of keeping the person scientifically calm and collected from the inside. And spiritually, it keeps you elevated and shows that you surrender yourself to Bhagwan, where the U represents God's feet and then the red represents an ideal devotee bowing down to God. After that step is done, after you apply that on your forehead, you apply that to your left arm, your right arm, and on your chest. The next step basically is to do shlok. And what that initially does is brings Bhagwan live into your puja. Into the murtis that you have in your puja, it brings them into them. It's basically like an invitation to them. So as they come in, you start worshiping them. You take your mara in your Gaumukhi, and then you start doing mara. That'll be your first initial step as soon as Bhagwan arrives. Right? You do several maras. After that, you do tapni mara, in which you stand on your left leg and keep your right leg folded, and you put your arms up high, and then you still concentrate and focus on Bhagwan, and you do mara. Then your next step is very simple as well. It's walking around the murtis and Bhagwan where they're seated. It's called pradakshina, which is also saying, hey Bhagwan, you are at the center of my life, which really means that you surrender yourself to Bhagwan, basically. After that, following that step is Dandvat Pranam. Dandvat Pranam is when you bow down to Bhagwan fully, lay down on the ground, put your arms out wide in the front and salute Bhagwan, leaving your whole body on the floor, touched to the floor, and this also symbolizes that you surrender to Bhagwan. Once this is done, you make your last prayers, you have your one-on-one with Bhagwan. Since Bhagwan is live in your puja, you have that one-on-one conversation with Bhagwan, and you talk. You let out all prayers, you want to confess, all that confession, you let it out calmly, talk with Bhagwan, and then it's time for him to leave, right? So now, at this point in your Nitya Puja, you would do your Antim Shlok, your ending shlok, basically. And at this point, you say, thank you, Bhagwan, for coming to my puja, and you let him go. And then after that step is done, you would go on to read your scriptures that you have in your Nitya Puja. And then after that's done, you bow down to your parents. The idea behind Arti, the ideology behind Arti, started way back when there was no electricity. Back then, when Hindus actually wanted to see Bhagwan, they weren't able to. Because after the sun set, it got really dark. No electricity means no lights, right? So they weren't able to see Bhagwan himself. So they thought of an idea. why don't all Hindus gather in a specific spot and they all meet together and light up a divo and roam it around Bhagwan's murti? So at this point, with they're celebrating light, they could see Bhagwan's murti and they get darshan of Bhagwan and they feel joy. So that's basically the idea behind Aarti, and we still carry it on to this day because it shows that we have unflinching love towards Bhagwan. Aarti is typically done 2 times a day, once in the morning, very early in the morning at sunrise, and once at Sandhya Aarti, which is after sunset. And you do Aarti and you worship Bhagwan, you say thank you, you have darshan of and feel joy. You celebrate light. So out of the many rituals, this one's my favorite because it has to do with food. Now, the thing is, as in Indian culture, we have a lot of food items, right? And when we make these delicious delicacies, we want to make sure that we make it properly and that we offer it to Bhagwan before we eat ourselves. Because it would be really selfish to eat something that Bhagwan gave himself and not thank him for and not offer it to him first, right? So that's the main idea behind THAL, is when you make food, you make sure you give it to offer to Bhagwan and then you eat it, you consume it, you have that prasad yourself after all. The food just doesn't stay food, it becomes prasad, It's been sanctified by Bhagwan and you have it yourself, and then it's more beneficial to you mentally, spiritually, and physically as well. So essentially, CHESHTA is recalling the divine memories, the divine leelas of Bhagwan that has performed throughout the day, right? So as I said before, I do CHESHTA every night before I sleep, and it's a selfless love that you gotta have for Bhagwan, that you put him to sleep first and then you go to sleep, so you can have a peaceful sleep. Broadly speaking, Bhakti is offering devotion to Bhagwan. And to me, personally, it's doing any activity with the thought of pleasing Bhagwan in mind is Bhakti. So the several ways that I've mentioned before that I do Bhakti is THAL, AARTI, CHESHTA. I keep Bhagwan in mind at all times when I do this. And it could be something as little as cooking dinner for your parents with the thought of pleasing Bhagwan. And that is Bhakti for me as well. Alright, so Hinduism is a monotheistic religion. Now, that might be hard to understand, but let me explain. Think about this. Just like several other religions, there are several sectors in the religion. In Hinduism, there are quite many. And now, it works like one Hindu chooses one chief deity, and that chief deity would have several demigods working for him, or working for and towards him, right? And once that Hindu passes away, he or she would go into the heaven of that specific chief deity. In Hinduism, idols are viewed as actual forms of Bhagwan, and they're treated as such. When we offer THAL, when we offer food, when we keep them asleep, we take into consideration that actual Bhagwan resides in those idols. We dress them up in a way, we actually make sure they eat, we bring the food to the idols, and we treat them as actual Bhagwan resides in them. So essentially, we do believe that Bhagwan is everywhere, God is everywhere, but our main focal point of devotion, expressing our devotion, is to another human-like form, idol. So we can connect to the idol better and connect to Bhagwan better. As an ideal Hindu, the main end goal is to escape the cycle of transmigration, is to attain salvation. Now, you might be wondering, what is transmigration, right? So I'm sure you have heard of reincarnation, but the difference is that in reincarnation, the jiv, the soul, gets destroyed, right? And another one is formed into another body. But in transmigration, your jiv is still there. The thing is, it just gets transferred to another body form, another animal, whatever living form that you are up for the next cycle. But that's the main goal as a Hindu, to attain moksha, to attain that salvation. So these are just typical aspects and rituals of a practicing Hindu, and I hope it better helped you understand Hinduism as a whole.